Hey, Kier, how you doing?
Oh, wait, hey, Isaac.
Oh, and there's Zach too. Excellent.
Hello. Yeah, sorry I haven't been able to make it lately, but I wanted to show up today.
Awesome. So I went over that PR last night here and I saw you responded. And I'm really sorry, guys, but I got pulled into a fire drill. So I gotta run.
Okay.
And if you need me, shoot me an email and I'll look at the recording. Otherwise, have fun
Okay. Good
next
good
week.
luck with
Sorry.
whatever fire you got.
Bye.
All right. Well, maybe it's just us. Greg was just talking about a PR.
Yeah,
Is that something you want me to look at?
yeah, it's about and how it's file was it sound good, but it's already several weeks there. Just um, your name is add custom repos before installing RPM packages at 12:18.
Sorry, what did you say the name? Or you said 1218? Uh,
12:18
there we go. Okay.
custom
Oh yeah, you
repos.
opened this while my whole team and I were in where we're traveling to meet up together. Must have got lost then. So custom repos before installing RPM packages. Oh, okay. Um, yeah, so I haven't looked at this at all yet, but um, oh, interesting. You have a change to the OpenStack entry point script. Um, yeah, I just want to look at this quickly so that I know what we're talking about here. Um,
Yeah, it's basically the initial set of packages of cherry picks that we need to run and our test cases. So um, it's only first part.
okay. Um, yeah, it's a big one. So let's see.
It should be in involved any code that you guys using, just for SUSE, and the idea is to have a specific um, repo record in install task. It's actually an extension for install task.
Okay. Yeah, I guess what's confusing me initially is so the name of the PR, right? Sounds fairly simple, but then you
Right.
you have a lot of backported stuff in there first.
It's actually very simple, but since it was initially introduced on the our downstream version, it requires some small PRs, or small commits, which allows to merge it with minimal number of conflicts. So the first, the big one is like split argparse arguments, which was done by Loic some time ago. It's related to Tautology OpenStack CLI. I don't know if anyone else is using it, though probably it will not break anyone's.
Yeah, I have no idea if anyone's using it, and I think what I would suspect is that if anyone else is using the original OpenStack backend, they probably are not following master, kind of like you guys. So I wouldn't be
Yeah,
too concerned about honestly anything in that entire sub package changing. because if it works for you, you guys are the ones that we know have been using it. And so if this is good for you, then I'm sure it's just good. Um, so I guess do you want to look at this together now, or are there other things you wanted to talk about?
I had no special um, topics for today discussion, but
Okay.
yeah, because yeah, there is still work. Um, but I mean, there is still works which I'm just working on, and um, they they're expected more cherry picks, but this one is one of these, which is probably good starting point for first person, big portion of this.
Okay. Yeah, I think I it seems to me like it might be a good use of time to just to do like a mini review here, or at least a walkthrough, because there is a decent amount here. And maybe it'll be really quick, but I don't what I want to do is let's see, not worry too much about the changes that you want to get into the OpenStack backend, because I trust you there, right? Because you've been using them a lot. But I also want to make sure that I don't gloss over changes that might affect other people, just to make sure that that's going to be okay. Um, so so I got to an interesting, like a sort of interesting commit quickly here. It's actually the second one, the packaging add repo instead of installing Ceph release. Um, and that probably makes sense. Um,
This is actually very old. I want to say that uh, the
mhm,
the main the main commit is OpenStack add test repo CLI option.
yeah,
The rest of them are uh, like supplementary because they are required to for only for SLE and OpenSUSE to work correctly.
mhm.
So I don't think really if it will break anyone's else work.
I see. Okay, so one thing here is like, so yeah, now I see that this will
It,
only affect OpenSUSE
even if
and
it breaks OpenSUSE, that I only one who will care, and Nathan, so
yeah.
for the moment.
Um, I think the commit message here should should be more clear, right? That that's only affecting OpenSUSE. Not a huge deal, but
Yeah, and another thing is that though it's like sounds like adding test repo CLI option, it only affects OpenSUSE and it only implements SUSE repos, because if we want to use it like for Red Hat, so we need to add support for Red Hat to this feature,
mhm.
because the commands actually are different, and I actually can add this support, but I have no setups for checking if it works fine.
Okay.
So
Let me
so
take
this
a
is why we just left it, or if anyone
sure.
will want it, they can add it. The same for Ubuntu. So the dep repos are different from CentOS correspondingly, and uh, from YARN or from Zipper way.
Mhm. Yeah, no,
So
that makes sense to me. Um, it's a feature we might want for RHEL at some point, but I you know someone can figure out how to add that if they want it. Um, So I'm
Yeah,
looking at that commit
and
now because I hadn't seen that one yet.
so, and by the way, there are some other commits in our downstream which are not in this one
Mhm.
PR, which are just fixing and then extending the test repo feature itself, like adding a priority for test repos. But uh, I didn't include it right now. Just
Okay.
it's for the next steps for merging because uh, not to grab too much commits, so it will like be not too complicated to review the code.
Yeah. No, that I think that's fair. Um, oh, and you have to change the opsys module a little bit too. Um, that's interesting. So you have to stringify the version here in the opsys module,
Yeah,
and
I'm not like I can remove these changes from it related to for stringifying because it was like part of the this feature because at the time when I was testing it, it was failing with exception. Like it was trying to split float. So I
oh
had
yeah,
to.
I mean I think that whole module I think it intends to work with strings. So yeah, I mean this seems like a good change. What I think is interesting here is that you didn't have to update the tests and the tests still pass. So that kind of suggests to me that
The test still passed because we which test though I don't know.
oh, the unit tests for the opsys module they didn't
Opsys.
yeah.
Okay. Probably it doesn't use cases or they use they pass strings instead of values. So because it's if you're adding to mock values or any input parameters from test cases, they will probably not cover in their own values to it. Like
Yeah, I can't remember how thorough the tests are. I remember the coverage got to at least close to 100% in this module, but I don't know if I did a lot of negative testing there. Um, okay, so I guess I want to I want to give this a decent review, and we don't have to like do the whole thing right now or anything. Uh, I just wanted to take at least like a quick look at it um, now, partly so that I don't forget to do it later because
yeah,
I haven't been super available for testing stuff lately. Um, oh, and so I'm noticing how, yeah, you're making a change to the way that we used to write the Ceph QA suite get URL out to the topology.yaml. Um, yeah, all right. So maybe I can just finish up a review on my own here and like leave comments and stuff as I need. I'm excited to see this pull request because it means, at least I think it means that it brings you closer to being able to run on master with us.
yeah.
Um, so how much more is there? I know you mentioned there's at least, some more changes, but
I actually can't say because we do not need probably to have all of them because probably we will not use OpenStack client for deployment. and some of them are relating only. Some of the patches that we are using right now is related to different OpenStack support, like OVH, and some of our internal, like um, OpenSUSE Cloud and SUSE Cloud, and they will not be required if we will not use OpenStack Client CLI for deployment, and we will try and use Ansible scripts. So because they will cover in all this functionality, but I can say on many commits now, but for sure I can say that as soon as we have basic functionality which allows us to install dependencies from custom repos, there is a big changes related to support for different versions of the I don't know, mostly related to OpenSUSE packages. And another thing is a big task is support for deep sea.
Oh,
And
okay.
Nathan is currently working on the deep sea test, portable and upstreamable. So yeah.
Cool.
So
That all sounds positive.
the thing is that the part of the code should be required for the server actually working, and another is for testing the test itself. It's actually in a Ceph repo rather than tautology.
Okay.
So, but okay, I'm just uh, in the middle of the effort of trying and running tautology uh, on via libcloud.
Oh
Run
yeah.
it. Yeah, just trying to use Ceph, CM, Ansible, repo, part of them, and deploy it on OpenSUSE machine. So rather than Ubuntu, and correspondingly, um, but it's still in the progress.
Okay. How is it going?
Yeah, just doing some um, housekeeping work and then taking breaks. So far so good. I'm able to deploy it to, uh, but still not able to run any tests. So now I need to add an Ansible role for setting up internal DNS mask server for domain name, probably.
Oh, okay. Uh, have,
Because in other ways, I need to set up some external, name server as it's pointed in the manual. So we actually do not need it for testing purposes. I mean, for testing tautology itself, right?
uh,
No, I'm saying no.
wait, sorry, you don't need what?
So when you deploy tautology to VMs on OpenStack, you
Mhm.
can you can then schedule a run, and it will create um, target machines. So when we use OpenStack backend, it it just need to resolve those new targets with um, some domain names, and the Tutorial OpenStack CLI tool is running the OpenStack um, setup script, which is configuring DNS mask for host names on the Tutorial
Yeah,
server.
yeah,
So,
that's something I always thought was well, it was creative the
yeah.
way that works.
So, but we have some issues on OVH with this scheme. It was working like charm for, for most time, but sometimes OVH has bugs. Like uh, one of our regions actually uh, doesn't allow to pass through traffic through 53rd port between security groups. So it's very ugly. On one regions it works okay, on another one it doesn't work at all. And but
Oh man.
configuration is the same.
So, how, do you know anything about the way that we solve this problem?
So you set up DNS externally?
Yeah, so yeah, for some reason, before anybody that currently works on any of this was was part of this was back when we were Inktank. Our test lab, the Sepia lab, was set up with external DNS, which when you're behind a VPN is um, kind of wrong. Uh, but we never changed it because it doesn't really matter that much anyway. It's just not a best practice at all. Well, the interesting thing is well, the OVH IPs are public, right? They're not behind a VPN. So when we
Right.
do this with the OVH uh, instances, it's not, we're not doing anything gross. Um, but what we do is I found this web service that someone had written uh, and kind of abandoned, and I sort of just adopted it. And what
Yeah.
it does is it uses NS update um, to update. It uses the dynamic DNS um, system that already exists, but it provides a web service that an API that allows you to update records. Um, and so here's I'll show you my fork to it, my
Yeah,
fork of it.
I saw the information how you just
Okay.
um in the documentation that it's required, and I saw the reference to your branch, to your fork. But why I do not hurry into integrating it, because it's a separate service actually. So, but okay. And the
Yeah.
fact that DNS mask was working for us okay, and we had never problems with it. But as you said, uh, as a as a workaround, I actually used an external DNS mask setup on some of our consistent resource that we use for sharing temporary artifacts for the testing, like build service. Um, and it also works fine for us. Just pointing, uh, we added a key like name server to deployment command line to Tutorial OpenStack,
Mm.
actually CLI, and it just sets the name server to configuration file, and just one line.
Okay.
And
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't mean to try to push you to use the same method that we're using. Um, just to let you know it was there if you didn't know already. There is, and I'll stop talking about it in 1 sec. I just want to note there is a role for it in Ceph Ansible. So if you do in the future decide that you'd rather go this path, then it shouldn't be too difficult to do. Um,
yeah, okay. So,
but um,
Yeah, and another thing is population of nodes. So it's another role that I probably need to add because and probably add a configuration to um, I mean tweaking tautology configuration to add different uh, OpenStacks like OVH or others or different regions at least. So I'm not sure if it's rather to add an Ansible role for this or just to manipulate configuration externally with Python.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the best way to do that either is. I think what if I were going to look at this today, the first place I would probably look is just so the teuthology role in CM Ansible does have some ability. It has like at least the beginnings of the ability to manage the teuthology configuration files on the teuthology host machine. Um, but I don't think it's complete. My memory is that I I made it sort of useful, but not nearly as useful as it could or should be, because I was just doing what I needed to do at the time. Um, but I could imagine that if that feature were made a little bit better, then you're able to when you execute that Ansible role, you're able to include as part of say your group vars somewhere. These are the fragments that I would like to add to the teuthology configuration file. Um, but maybe there's a better way to do it. I'm not sure. I mean, I'd be open to whatever solution someone might come up with.
Anyway, proof of concept is not ready.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as we have proof of concept, I mean, at some point working solution which will allow us to automatically deploy the tautology and I mean upstream tautology and run some basic jobs in OpenStack. We can add a Jenkins job to test PRs and extend this as best as we can.
Yeah, that sounds great.
For now, of course, I'm just trying to make it working for OpenSUSE, but we can add several cases for make it deployable to Ubuntu or CentOS, so we can have a matrix for testing tautology itself can be deployed to any of operating system we need.
Yes, that's something we need badly.
So, there is another thing that I actually recall that we need to discuss the unit tests. It's actually not unit, but they are functional. So
Mm-hmm.
I added a Jenkins, which we use for community purposes on OpenSUSE, but it's for testing downstream PRs. So I added a, a Jenkins job which is trying to run PyTests, the same which is executed by Py27 environment in Tox in upstream. So I do not use Tox at this moment because I am not able to use it because the system where I try to run it, it has the PEEP older version, which is not working with all those dependencies for tautology.
Oh.
And when you run a talks with Pi27 environment, it's even if you run it from virtual environment where a newer version of PEEP installed, it creates a task-specific environment, and it doesn't upgrade a PEEP in this environment, and it's taken from the system one, and this is one it can't set up correct set of setup tools to install the rest of dependencies from the requirements data.py, and it's failing. So I have to do all these environment manually. So just
Ouch. That sounds really unpleasant.
Yeah, just so I'm doing the same that is done in Bootstrap, not actually in Bootstrap, but everything that Tax is doing. But it's not super much effort. But the problem was like to figure out what was the problem and which are the dependencies, and I spent time for checking what's wrong with our test cases because we had failures, and I figured out that a recent version of PyTest has some issues that at least one test is failing because of AC time is missing in capture log. I don't know why. It's introduced in 391 version, so I have to bound to the recent the version before the 391. So probably we need to fix it. I mean, provide a fix to PyTest in PyPy if we want to use a recent version. But the upstream code is using 371, right?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that I was wondering why this failure is not reproduced on upstream PRs. I figured out it's just it's bounded to some version, not recent one.
So, yeah, that brings up something that
Yeah.
excuse me, that I was thinking about a couple weeks back was, so periodically we pin versions of our dependencies, right? So that we don't have unexpected breakages, because we used to have that a lot. But that means that we periodically need to go and try to update dependencies and run tests and things. And it's been quite a long time, I think, since that's been done. It's something that we should do before too long, I think.
Yeah, and I've grabbed some commits from upstream to our downstream related to all those dependencies. At some point you switched from the setup tools to the PEEP tools, but as I understand, you do not run it often. You don't.
Yeah, yeah. So pip tools has been really nice in that it helps us, it helps us manage the pinning much more easily, but it's always going to be a manual process to periodically try to upgrade things. And I just noticed that it looks like a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you've seen this. I think this is a new GitHub feature, but it has a way to tell you about certain dependencies that you need to update for security reasons, which I actually just noticed.
Yeah.
So we should probably at least try to get those three, Ansible, PyOpenSSL, and Paramiko updated. I'm not super worried about security here, but it's always, you know, it, we should keep up regardless.
Yeah, but anyway, it's pretty tough to do upgrades because one thing is when you run pip and it's kind of installs okay and for unit tests or functional tests that we have right now. But when it comes to deploy tautology, there are many issues like some dependency and the real tautology stuff and old backend stop functioning because, for example, right now we have problem in downstream because I believe you get rid of it um, and you started to use libcloud because of those dependencies. Um, like uh, the old code does not work anymore with new modern version of uh, command line OpenStack tool.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why, yeah, of course, we wanted to use libcloud is that it's a pretty stable interface, unlike the command line utilities.
So there are a lot of changes in CLI and a lot of changes in OpenStack itself. Like there are new uh, introduced new way with API access point, and I mean new access point URLs. They are a little bit different, and there are um, new issues with token way uh, of keeping connection. So
Oh.
this functionality also is not working anymore for newer version. And actually, it doesn't support cloud-based configuration. So, there's different ways of configuring OpenStack. One is set in OS prefixes environment, and another one is to get configuration from the cloud YAML. So this one I found very usable. So it doesn't uh, require anymore to store secrets in environment variables.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
also, you do not require to use token feature because if you use clouds, it hashes somewhere internally, I think.
Thing.
So, but we can't use all of them, and right now because the code is incompatible, and we need to spend some time for adopt code.
Right.
But okay, so this stuff is kind of works for us. Like now we run unit tests for downstream or functional, but there are some issues that I found. Like of course there are a lot of some tests which are trying to access Sepia or some lab resources or OpenStack, and there are a lot of noise with errors. Luckily, all of those tests are skipped. But anyway, they take time. So the PyTest takes about 8.5 minutes for us. So it's pretty long as for unit tests.
This is just the unit tests.
Py 27,
That takes 8 minutes.
yeah, 8 minutes.
Yeah, that's that's slower than it should be, I think. Um,
I think it's mostly because some of the tests are actually functional tests. So if we can split them, it's probably uh, would be better.
um, yeah, let's see. I guess
So, so they even um, at least we can isolate these test cases which requires some resources or setup like OpenStack running. Uh, so it even doesn't try to use to run those tests because it's just generates errors and a lot of noise not necessary.
I'd be fine with splitting things out. If there are things in the Pi 2.7 environment that are not actually unit tests, then yeah, we should probably fix that. I totally support that.
But yeah, but it's probably not super easy because we need to spend some time for investigating.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not blocking us right now. It's just for future. We can live with this. But another thing is like usability of the tests itself. I was trying to run them the way we run unit tests, and I found that they are not thread safe. So some of the tests are sharing the same test data in temp directory, and this is why they can fail. So I had
Uh,
to pin job to be not executable in parallel, so they are run sequentially. So
that seems like it would probably be worth fixing, especially if you're saying they take
yeah,
8 minutes to complete.
yeah. So I understand there can be discrepancy between upstream and downstream, but I've tested it both, and it's both true that they are using they are for upstream on not safe threats safe as well. So
Okay. That suggests that whatever that bug is, it's been around for a while, and it, then it might be something that I introduced. So if that's the case, I'm sorry.
I believe you couldn't check it because your job is running sequentially. So
Um, yeah, yeah, I'm sure you're right.
yeah, and such kind of bugs are difficult to catch because not always tests are running in parallel. So,
Yeah.
so one time you can uh, get those conflicting tests running at the same time. Another day they're just run sequentially, and you can catch it.
Okay. Do you have any other blockers?
No, no, just this PR.
Okay, good. Good, good. Um, well, let's see. You've waited long enough for me to look at this. I'll make sure to have a review. I should be able to complete a review today on that PR. I don't want to hold you up any longer. Um, probably from what I've seen so far, like it looks looks high quality. I might ask for some cosmetic things just in terms of like, like I mentioned, there's one commit in there that I noticed so far that should, I guess in general, what I want to make sure is that commit names are as helpful as possible. Like the packaging one, um, it sounds like it's changing the behavior of repos versus Ceph release packages for everyone, but it's only doing that for OpenSUSE. It might be worth updating that. Although that's a cherry pick, isn't it? These are all cherry.
Yeah, most of them are cherry pick and merge.
Okay,
And
then
so,
maybe I won't worry too much about those.
yeah, anyway, if we need uh, some cosmetic changes, anyway, even not cosmetic, then we probably it's worth to submit it with different PR. So because to minimize merging effort of upcoming commits. So probably it's better to add those cosmetics after the changes that will come in the next PRs. But anyway, it's valuable to sound preferences, what should be changed.
Okay. So yes, I'll take a look at that. And yeah, should be pretty straightforward. Um, now, let's see. Yeah, do you have anything else for me?
I don't think. Oh, probably not. Not today.
Okay. Um, great then. Yeah, like I said, I'll get this reviewed today. Thank you for submitting it. I'm excited to get to get closer to you being able to use master. Um, and sorry this one has taken so long. Um, but we'll get it in very soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Bonds.
Yeah, no problem. Well, yeah, if there's nothing else, like I guess we could finish up and we can have 10 minutes back.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it was nice chatting with you. I should be able to make next week's as well. So we'll hopefully see you then. Um, I'll probably talk to you
Okay.
before then anyway.
Nice. Okay.
All right. Have a
So,
good evening.
have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.